Welcome, everybody. At this time, I'd like to welcome everybody to the June 22nd, 2017 meeting of the Rio Traffic Commission. Would everybody please rise and salute the flag? Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. We're going to be taking things a little bit out of order here today. Today we're having public hearings, and due to the number of residents that are in the audience this evening and public officials, we're going to start out with item number 6 on our agenda, and this is for the residents of Fairfield Street who are requesting to review the one-sided parking restriction on Fairfield Street. This is a public hearing to allow both sides parking and adding a one-way restriction. At this time, I'll open up the public hearing to proponents, people who are in favor of this proposal to make Fairfield two-sided parking and a one-way. Name and address for the record, please.
Thank you. I have packets. I'm thrilled that we have as many people as we have here from Fairfield Street because we have been absolutely buried. Again, when I moved there in 1972, the sign said, no cars, no parking. I looked up, I looked down on Fairfield Street. I was driving a yellow Pinto at the time, just to give you an idea of the vehicles that were around. No one had cars on Fairfield Street. There were two couples next to us. Neither one of them had a car. There were two ladies across the street, they didn't have a car. Marco and Jane next door had one car between them, and Jane did not have it during the day. I couldn't believe there was no parking. So when the signs went up the day before the snowstorm in December, and it wasn't even that bad a snowstorm, but considering the winter we had, it was a bad snowstorm, we were truly, truly bothered. And I just want to tell you that in April, I went to my sister's house for Passover. I came home, and there was not a parking space at 8 o'clock in the morning, in the evening, to park. I went up, I went down. There was not a spot at 8 o'clock in the evening to park. As I pulled in front of the Malachi's house, because I had spoken to them and saying if I was ever stuck, could I possibly pull in front of your house? They said, of course, Evelyn. I parked in front of their house. As I walked back to my house, which was the length of Fairfield Street, I said, what am I going to do in June, July, and August when I just might want to, at 8 o'clock at night, cruise Revere Beach and see what's going on down there? I will not be able to do it. I will be a prisoner in my home because here it is Passover. I can't get home, never mind the 4th of July. So that's when we decided we really had to get together. We had a fabulous, fabulous turnout on Fairfield Street. As you can see from the packet, first I sent a little notice to the neighbors. I talked to Christopher Giannino, who was so cooperative, told me there would be a meeting in either on the 15th or the 22nd. Working up to that, we worked on the petitions also, and we started a wonderful email addresses, so now we're all communicating on email, which brings the whole neighborhood together, so everything worked out very well. We also sent the notice to all is here. I spoke to Stephen Morabito privately, and then we did before we did the petitions, you'll notice the map I have. It's very grassroots, I admit, but it does show how Fairfield Street is laid out. My house was built in 2005, so there's no generation here that is the same. There's modern houses, there's old houses, there's two-deckers, there's three-deckers. So what I did was, of course, number each house. Someone is talking? I wrote how many units were in each building, in each house, as far as I know, and how many vehicles there are. And again, going back to 1972, if people had one car, there are houses here where mother, father, and teenage children have cars. So there are some people that have 4 cars. So if you go to the next sheet, because I couldn't get them all on the same sheet, we have a total of 13 homes on one side, 12 homes on another side. 13 vehicles on one side, 28 vehicles on the other side. Just by looking at how many cars might fit on one side, I think it's like 22 or 23 can fit. Some people have driveways, but that's not always the perfect answer. I also want to throw out the fact that over 52% of us are senior citizens on Fairfield Street also. Ownership of homes on Fairfield Street is outstanding. We have people now who are in their 3rd or 4th generation of living on Fairfield Street. And more people, even when they get married, they hope to find an apartment on Fairfield Street, but it's rather difficult. I'm new. I'm only there 44 years. They still refer to my house as the Infante House. And then when Christopher called me and told me when the meeting would be, I sent this also. And then you have, on yours, the petitions. Jeanette Morrison and I and Wally collected signatures. No one refused to sign the petitions. No one. So we are united in praying that we can have two-sided parking back. Any questions? Thank you. I brought a lot of packets, too. I thought more people would be here.
Any other proponents? Councilman Asso.
Any questions, Mr. Chairman? Welcome, and thank you for allowing me to speak before some of the area residents. I've been representing and lucky to represent this area for over 30 years. This will be my 30th year in representation. And clearly, as Evelyn stated, in the 70s when this was implemented and they have a one-sided parking, there is probably one, at best, car per household. In that process, during that time, I, prior to that, lived at 65 Fairfield Street. It's the first place of residence for me and my wife, newlyweds. And it was a wonderful street. But there weren't any cars. There were very few cars on that street. And to say that one-sided parking in those days, it was very doable, because in those days there weren't any cars, very few. Now, each home or each household has 2, 3, 4 cars at best, and some throw in a work truck in the midst of all this cars. There's no place to place them. If we are to make this one-sided, and I know it affects the whole side of Revere Street. I know you've been doing this throughout the whole city, but this is the first street that came up with on their own, I might add, a plan. They went with a petition and they asked each and every household if they would be in favor of this. And rightfully so, and I think all the credit in the world is deserving of them to come forward with such an idea. Their plea would be, as you know, you spoke with them previously, and at my previous conversation I had over a month ago when you had it at the Revere Police Station, you had that public hearing to allow this to come this far, was stated that let's come up with the concept of maybe we allow on a temporary basis the two-sided parking with the provision that we make the street one way. And I think in unanimity, the people that are here in attendance today, and I think those at home that weren't able to be here, would be in agreement that they would like to see the one-way come from Revere Street down towards the marsh. So that would be the most practical way to get to their homes. They would go for that, and I think they'd be very pleased, Mr. Chairman, if you and the commission were to allow that this evening. They would go home very, very happy people. knowing that they have the luxury of parking in front of their homes, and they have the safety of the one-way, of the police and fire apparatus, and the ambulances can come down to visit if they have to be. So at that, I again thank the members of Fairfield Street, led by my able classmate Evelyn Morris, and I thank all of those who came here today to offer testimony on this gorgeous day. A lot of people could just shy away from this and say, well, let the next guy do it. But all these folks came up here today to just show their support and lend their hand to make happen what they really so desire. Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, I hope you vote favorably for this one-way and allow the two-sided parking on Fairfield Street. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner and board members. I don't want to repeat what Evelyn Morris said and Council Ganasso, but it makes sense to have two-sided parking, and have it one-way going in from Revere Street out. I think that will alleviate the problems of the area. And again, as Evelyn mentioned, back a while ago, 1997, 80s, there were not many cars, but Revere has become a hot community, okay, for renters. And I think people have to be cognizant to the fact that, you know, things have changed in Revere. And I understand where they're trying to create no parking on one side in certain sections. I don't think that would be effective in this area here. And I think where the petitions have been presented, I go along with their request. Thank you. Thank you.
Any other proponents, people who wish to speak in favor of this petition that's been forwarded by the residents of Fairfield Street? Seeing, hearing none, if people would like to just raise their hands so we can get a count on the people who are in favor of this petition by Ms. Morris. Okay. All noted. Seeing and hearing no other proponents, I will open this side of the hearing up to opponents, people who are opposed to the changes that are proposed here this evening. Seeing, hearing none, I will close that side of the meeting and open it up to members of the commission. Members?
Parking on both sides, one way?
Actually, there was parking up on the sidewalk, I believe, on one side, and it was a two-way street. I think the problems that I foresee is that obviously we had to make that change because of the American with Disabilities Act does not allow you to block a sidewalk with any type of vehicle, and so obviously we had to eliminate that practice, not just here, but throughout the city. And that was done previously. This wasn't something that was intentionally done on behalf of one politician against another or the traffic commission against another. This is just something, it's the law. And you cannot violate the Disabilities Act, and this is what we're up against. And we all know, and it's true throughout every neighborhood in the city, that everybody has more cars than they probably need in a family, but it's something we're going to have to deal with. Some of the proposals that hit this evening, I think I'm going to defer to Chief Bright, is the fact that it's a very narrow street. I think if we're trying to probably come up with an idea that we'll try it for 60 days to make sure that, you know, the public safety is protected. But there are other issues other than, you know, Chief Wright trying to get his large vehicles down there. It's going to be tight for him, if not impossible. And if it comes to the point that it's impossible, we'll have to reverse that thing in the interest of public safety. But there are other issues to consider. When you have parking on both sides of the street, you're narrowing the street. If you have a driveway, now if you're butting up against the edge, it's going to be very difficult to get in and out of driveways based on the width of the street. I think my intention is to allow this to happen for 60 days to make sure it's going to work out and there's no problems. That's where I'm sitting at this point and willing to make that attempt. I don't know if there's any other comments that members of the commission would like to make. Obviously, the person who has the most to be concerned here is Chief Bright, due to the protection not only of the residents, but to the safety of his own officers as well.
I just would like to say that it is rare that this commission allows two-sided parking on narrow streets such as Fairfield Street. But this is a unique case. Fairfield Street is a short street. There are other alternate routes to get in and out of that area. And I think this may work. We'll give it a 60-day trial. Typically, we like to see a 30-foot wide way where you have two 9-foot parking lanes, one on each side, 9 feet on each side, and a 12-foot through lane for emergency apparatus to get through. That gives you a 30-foot wide street. Now, the city engineer was going to go out and measure the street. I think we might be pretty close to that. It could be like 28 feet, but we're going to give it a shot. I'm going to vote for this. It's not a usual thing we do, but it is a short street, and given the consensus of the residents in the street and willingness to cooperate with each other and work together, I think this may be a feasible alternative.
Some of you may not know that 15 years ago, this coming Christmas Eve day, we had a house fire right across from my house. On the second floor, Linda Rivers died in a fire on Christmas Eve day. The fire was contained. It was mostly smoke. She died of smoke inhalation. When our neighbor noticed it and called it in at 2 o'clock in the morning, she was already dead. But I just want to say that we remember that night very, very strongly, all of us who were there. And I will tell you that the firemen at the time, Gene Doherty, had no trouble getting down our street at all. There were ambulances, action equipment was there was fire engines from other cities and so forth. They did a fabulous job. And then we lived with that house for 10 years with nothing done to it because the house did not look that bad. The house was not torn down or anything. We lived with it, not saying anything about it until someone finally decided they would sell it to someone else. But we lived with an empty house that was all burnt out inside. I even had one day, a police officer was doing a detail on Revere Street. He walked down and he said, "What's the story with this house?" And I told him the story. He said, "We don't even know about this house. It's an empty house." I said, "Except for the animals that go in and out and the birds that go in and out and so forth. It's a completely empty house." And we lived with that smell when it rained for 10 years. So we appreciate your doing this so much because we're very safe on our street, but we do know the terror of losing a neighbor from a fire on Christmas Eve day.
Okay, Chris.
To make a motion that we,
Go ahead,
go
Chris.
ahead, Chris.
Just want to let them know, I mean, if it does come down to the street not being passable, and the police do show up to it, they'll tow both cars out of the way. So if a plow or fire truck can't make a call on it, we're not going to say who's there first, who's there second. As long as they don't up front, if there is a violation, if they don't get along with it, we don't pick favorites.
I think, Chris, that I will take a look at the plowing issues and what we've done in other streets that have a similar problem with the narrowness of the streets, is that during snow removal operations that we will limit parking to one side of the street during those storm events, and then after the storm events, they lift it. So we're not there yet. I suspect that we will be there, just based on the fact that when you stop plowing snow, the street narrows. And so depending on the severity of the storm, you're going to be looking at probably 2 feet on each side. It's been as wide as 3, and that's why we need to get as close to the curbing as possible so we can widen out the streets. But that's a subject for another time, but I think we will be revisiting that issue when the time is appropriate. But at this time, do I have a second on Frank Stringy's motion?
Yeah, I make a motion that we approve the request for two-sided parking in one-way from Revere Street to Hastings Street in a 60-day trial period.
Second? All those in favor? Aye. The ayes have it. Proposal passes. You're welcome. While we're still out of order, we're going to take up item number 5, and this is to amend Schedule 8 of Title 10, parking restrictions generally of the city ordinance by removing the following. The location is Proctor Ave, the direction is southerly from Broadway to Amasa Street, and adding Proctor Ave, direction southerly from Broadway to Adams Street. Any proponents? People who are in favor of this? Would one of you like to come up and speak? If you want to speak for each individual, is more than welcome to come up and speak. But where we have such a large crowd, if 1, 2, 3 want to come up and voice their opinion, we'll be glad to hear you. Name and address for the record, please.
My name is Lauren Manoni, and I live at 342 Proctor Avenue. And I just want to say that we've lived there since 1998, and in the almost 20 years we've been there, there has never been problems parking on both sides of the street. It's been done, it's been comfortable. As far as I can see, there's been no safety issues, and we've been talking amongst the neighbors, and nobody can understand why they decided to change to one-sided parking. I just wanted to bring up a few points, and one is that the street seems very wide on the side that we live in, which is from the nursing home down to Amasa Street. And also, I wanted to point out that it's not a through street to Washington Avenue like Park Ave and Mountain Ave are. It's just not. And it just does seem wide enough. And since the instatement of one-sided parking, I feel like the cars are going even faster. And I don't know if they have like a false sense of openness or what it is, but I do feel like that. And I know that there were police parked on the stop signs a couple of weeks ago, stopping people that were not stopping that were flying through the stop signs. And I kept hearing the sirens going. I didn't know what was going on. And I figured out that was what was going on. So the major things I think that were created when these laws were changed and we were only allowed to park on one side were that, you know, it just created hardships for everybody. Like everybody's saying here, the demographics have changed. There's, you know, every family has at least 2 cars, probably 3, and their driveways won't hold more than 2 cars if that's what they have. I think that the only thing that it's caused is dissension between our neighbors, because it's like, you know, the people come home, they can't park in front of their house on the north side. I park way down the street, it's pouring rain, I get to my front door, I can't even believe this is what's going on. If we have visitors, people that have been coming to my house for 20 years, I have to say, you can't park in front of my house anymore. And it's difficult. We had a graduation party for my daughter's college graduation, and people were scrambling to find a place to park, and it was really awkward and uncomfortable for all of us. So we've lived through some unbelievable snowstorms over the years. There hasn't been any problems. There's a woman that lives directly across the street that lives in a yellow house, and I think she has a lot of health issues. And I would say that the fire department is there sometimes at least once a month, and there never seems to be any issues whatsoever with that apparatus getting back and forth up and down the street. So I guess in closing, I just want to say that I'm hoping the city will return 2-sided parking to our section of Proctor Avenue, and so that we can feel more comfortable in our own homes again. And I know he's not here right now, but I wanted to publicly thank Patrick Keefe for listening and caring about the way that we feel in our ward, and I appreciate that, and thank you all for your consideration.
Thank you. At this time, At this time, I am going to, Patrick Keefe sent in a little message for the residents and myself and the members of the rest of the commission. Dear Sergeant Janito, I'm writing in favor of the proposed removal of restricted parking on Proctor Ave. I am also in favor of removing restrictions on Lower Warren Street and adding a one-way towards South Cambridge Street. Unfortunately, I'm unable to attend this evening, but want to make sure you know my stance on these matters. Regards, Patrick Keefe. So Councilor Keefe is in favor of the proposals this evening regarding both Warren Street and Proctor Avenue. So those are the feelings of the council. Having heard from this young lady, are there any other proponents, people who would like to speak on the matter? Come to the microphone and just state your name and address for the record.
Hello, Lisa DeFlumery, 439 Proctor Ave. I'm here on behalf of myself and my parents, Carmen and Amelia DeFlumery, who reside at 439 Proctor Ave, and on behalf of my brother, Basilio DeFlumery, and his family, who reside at 451 Proctor Ave. In over 30 years of being a resident of Revere, my parents even longer, this is the first time we have ever had to come to voice a concern at a public hearing. We believe that is a testament to your good service, and we would sincerely like to thank you for that. Let me begin by stating that up until the new parking rules were enforced, we have never had any issues with parking. Parking was permitted on both sides of the street with plenty of room for cars and emergency vehicles to get by. Parking was never congested or caused any issues with neighbors. We have always had peace in our neighborhood, and especially now that my parents are senior citizens, having peace where they live is very important. Since the enforcement of this parking policy, the neighborhood environment has changed, and the lack of parking has caused much discord. Currently, there is about one parking space available in front of each home on the side of the street where parking is permitted, and a small percentage of homes have space for two smaller cars to park when both cars are parked efficiently. This is simply not enough parking. Even when considering the residents of simply not enough parking, even when considering just the residents of one side of the street, let alone the residents on both sides. Vehicle ticketing has been very aggressive in the neighborhood, and while I am told they have stopped ticketing, some residents and visitors were ticketed on Mother's Day. When we bring our family together for Father's Day or for our traditional 4th of July barbecue, there is simply no space for family and friends to park. Some neighbors temporarily allow the use of their driveway spaces by others, but while the kindness of some neighbors is appreciated, the neighborhood residents should not have to rely on others to help provide parking for our vehicles. It is inconvenient for them, and it has caused resentment among the neighbors. An additional consequence of the one-sided parking is that the street is so open and wide, drivers are now speeding through Proctor Ave, making it unsafe in the neighborhood. We have always had an occasional speeding vehicle pass by, but not as much as we have now. In addition, some residents try to jam more than one vehicle into a one-vehicle driveway spot. This often blocks the sidewalk, and pedestrians have to walk in the street to pass it. Because of all these reasons, we urge you to restore the parking policies that had been in effect in our neighborhood for decades. They served us well in the past and will continue to serve well for our neighborhood residents and their families in the future. I appreciate the opportunity to speak to all of you, and we sincerely hope that you will vote to help us restore the peace, safety, and harmony in our neighborhood. Thank you so much.
Any other proponents? State your name and address for the record, please.
Sure, it's David Lania, 352 Proctor Ave. I was thinking of this, not from my hardships, but, from a legal standpoint. Why would they want to make it one way? I've been there for not one way, no parking on my side. Been there for 20 years, Rose parked there. And all of a sudden, we're getting tickets. So I got 4 tickets in a 3-week period. Your own Daniel Ferrara dismissed all those tickets as being illegal. So what I want to know is that, was there a detailed traffic study done before those parking signs were put up?
No. What I can tell you is this was kind of a house cleaning issue. They looked into the ordinance books. This was not written into the ordinance books. What was read into the ordinance was the fact that, if you notice, the lower end of Proctor Ave is much thinner and not as wide as the upper end, as you people all here this evening to discuss. So it was a consequence of not looking at the entire street when they initially proposed the one-sided parking. And so Proctor Ave has always been considered one-sided parking only. So through the years, I'm sure whoever represented the area, can you put up a sign and, to allow people to park, and they did that. But it wasn't done through the legal, this is the legal process. So after today, I think most of us are in favor of probably what the proposal you're having here tonight. So what'll happen is now it'll become legal, put in the ordinance books correctly. The problem was it was not put into the books correctly. And then when they went around cleaning up the ordinance book and they went through streets, I'm sure that you weren't the only street. There was dozens of streets that had this situation. You saw the people, Fairfield Street were here earlier, and there are others, and we are dealing with some others. So where we can clean up that issue, and we notice that this is an issue where you should be able to park on both sides, I don't think it's going to be an issue. But it wasn't an issue of who was looking to pick on somebody or do something wrong. They clearly looked and identified at the ordinances, and the ordinances stated, because the lower end of Proctor Ave obviously was built much before the upper end, and it is clearly stated that there's only parking on one side on Proctor Ave. So that's why that was enforced, but now we're here this evening to change it. So we'll go back to where it was, but it'll be legal this time, not just, okay, it's okay to do it. Okay?
Well, thank you for hearing me.
You're welcome. Any other proponents, people wishing to speak in favor of this? Seeing, hearing none, I would like to ask everybody who's in favor of this. I know there's other residents from the neighborhood that would like to voice their, okay, seeing, hearing none, I'll close that side of the hearing and open it up to opponents. Any people wishing to oppose two-sided parking on Proctor Ave? Seeing, hearing none, I'm going to close this the hearing and open it up to members of the commission. Members?
I just like to ask Sergeant Janino, when did the enforcement start taking place for the one-sided parking?
A couple of months ago.
That was started at the clerk's office about probably 3 months ago, maybe. The signs went up overnight one night. The signs were never there before that. One night they went up.
And up to that point,
Parking control went up and started tagging them.
and up to that point, parking on both sides was a usual condition from Broadway all the way to Amasa Street on Frog.
Massa to,
No.
Massa to Adams, they were parked on both sides forever. There was no problem, never a problem with
Yeah.
it. All
It
the
looks like
signs
this
were-
request is from Broadway to
Yeah,
Amasa.
well, it's just from, I think we're going to go from Adams all the way to Amasa, is where the front portion from Adams down to Broadway is still clearly, is going to be one way. It's not wide enough, it's just, yeah, so the proposal before us this evening is to maintain the one-sided parking from Broadway to Adams, but allow two-sided parking from Adams to Amasa. And at this time, I'll make a motion in favor. If there's a second, I think that, I've been up there, I've looked at it, it's obviously wide enough. I don't think there's any concern for public safety vehicles or anything to that nature. I think there's more than adequate space there, Frank. There's more than 9-foot parking lanes on both sides, and I think you got like 12 to 14 feet to be able to make it's clearly wide enough.
I know it's a 50-foot layout, so
Yeah.
we actually need 42 feet from curb to curb.
Right.
To accommodate everything.
So we do have that up
Yeah.
there. Okay. So at this time, I make a motion in favor of this proposal. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second, all
And
those,
your
in-
motion is from Proctor Avenue from Adams to Amasa.
Adams to Amasa only, correct? All those in favor? Ayes, the ayes have it. Okay, at this time, I'd like to take up item number 7. I have Council Novoselsky. Yeah. Chris, you can talk to the clerk. They don't have to enforce it. I mean, we'll take the signs down, but the problem...
I'll put a notice out as far as tomorrow
Okay.
morning to stop enforcement of
Okay.
it. Any tickets issued after today will be illegal anyways.
Okay, so make sure that the clerk's office knows what we did here this evening, because my sign department guy is away on vacation. He won't be back for at least a week, so. Have a good day. Okay. Well, not till you get the one-way signs up. Okay, item number 7. This is, the residents of Arlington Avenue would like to address the Traffic Commission regarding the following: changing the direction to a one-way. Council Novoselsky. Well, yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the commission. Ira Novoselsky, 53 Dearborn Street, Ward 2 Councilor. Members, this is, I believe, the third time we're together concerning Arlington Ave. But I do want to apologize for those people that are here that went to the police station instead of coming here, because I was under the impression it was down there for today. But so I do apologize to them. The first time we talked about Arlington Ave was, I believe, in 2008, when we wanted to do a 60-day trial, and that never happened because we didn't have the sign guys to do the work, and so that went by the boards. And then we came back last fall, I believe it was, and some people were here. Originally, the request came in to go down the hill, I believe. Yes. Request came in down the hill. Then people came up here and talked about it, and they said they would like to see it coming up the hill, coming southbound. And that's, when you found it the way to go at that point. Now, another group of people are coming up and say they'd rather have it going down the hill. The folks wanting it to come up the hill feel that it would make it 2 streets coming up and 2 streets going down, meaning that one Walnut Ave would be a 2-way, and then you'd have 1 street, Arlington Ave, coming up, and then Florence Ave going down. So now these other residents would like to see 1 street coming up, meaning Walnut Ave, because that's how you would have to get up to the hill at that point. And you would have Centennial going down and Florence going down.
Florence and Arlington go down.
And then you'd have the 2-way street again on Walnut Ave. So you'd have three directions going down and 1 direction coming up. I know you had a feeling that you would like to have seen it going down because of plowing purposes. And I was just on the phone with one of the people that like it the way it was passed last time. And I told them, what was going on, and they said, well, if there's a problem, do you think maybe if there's a plowing issue, we could make it that the emergency artery and have one-sided parking? That would be up to you. I know I wouldn't have an objection to that. I don't know if the neighbors would, because a lot of people do. Some people do have driveways and some don't. So I'd like you to take into consideration both ways. I always thought it should be down anyway, but it was, some of the folks that came up last time wanted it coming up. So I know there are several people here today that want to voice their opinion, and I believe there's a petition handy, and leave it up to your honorable body to make that decision. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Councilor. Okay, so at this time, I will open up this side of the hearing to proponents, people who want to change the one-way direction going down the hill as opposed to going up the hill. Is that correct, Councilor? You want the one-way to go down the hill as opposed to coming up the hill. That's what the proposal is before us. Yeah, okay. Any proponents, people who would like to come up and speak in favor of that? Just state your name and address for the record, please. Push the button.
Hi. Paula Whitaker. I live at 31 Arlington Avenue. I moved in 2009. I think that when you are coming up the hill, you really can't see. So it's better to have the traffic going down the hill. The other thing that I was thinking is in the wintertime, I remember 2014, the snow got really bad. And the folks at the very tail end of the street, right up at the top,
Got buried.
they were buried. And I think it makes the most sense going down the hill for that reason. Another reason I think is it's somewhat easier to see when you're at the Centennial intersection who's coming up, so it's easier to turn. But I definitely think going down the hill is easier. It's better because I have a kid. I'd like to see the cars coming, and I can't see them coming around the bend. So those are my thoughts.
Okay, great. Any other proponents, people who wish to speak in favor of this change of one-way going down the hill? Seeing, hearing none, are there any people in the resident that may not want to speak but may want to raise their hand that they're in favor of that proposal? Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, all right, very good. Sure, that's, all proponents are welcome to come out and speak before the board.
Thank you for letting us speak today, appreciate it. Great country, a lot of places you can't do that.
You get closer, no,
It
it's
was
on, you
on.
got to get closer, John, there you go.
Okay, and I agree with the lady from Arlington Ave. My name's Frank Davis, by the way. I live at 55 Arlington Ave, and this really matters to us. It has a lot to do with the quality of life and other things. I'll keep it short and sweet. Actually, we have a petition here. Chris, can you pass that to Mr. Goodwin, please? That's original signatures, Mr. Goodwin.
Okay, thank you.
20 people on the street, adults,
Street, too.
wanted to go downhill, and there's their signatures. I have these copies for the other people too, Chris, one for you and one for them each. There's only one with, that's not a copy, of course. Anyways, we just would like to see it go downhill because like she said, it's safer, the curve's not there, it's safer and easier in the wintertime, and it's a better quality of life. People are going downhill, coasting, instead of making noise coming up. We've been woken a million times in the middle of the night with low riders and things like that coming up the hill in motorcycles. And not that it matters to you, you can go up and down the street any way you want with the DPW to get the job done, but it's easier for you to go down the hill in the wintertime. So that's it in a nutshell. I just hope that the majority gets to have their wishes and have it go downhill from James Street to Centennial. That's it then. Thank you.
Thank you, Frank. Any other proponents? Seeing, hearing none, I'm going to close that side of the hearing and open it up to opponents, people who are opposed. Anybody opposed to the change of the one-way direction of Arlington? Seeing, hearing none, I'm going to close that side of the hearing and open it up to members of the commission.
I'd like to make a motion that we change the direction of Arlington heading down the hill one way.
I'll second that. All those in favor? Ayes, the ayes have it. Okay, thank you. You're all set. Okay. So the next item on the agenda, due to the people being here, we're going to take up the issue of Warren Street, and this is to amend the traffic regulation on Warren Street as follows. Establish Warren Street as a one-way headed north from Yeaman Street to South Cambridge Street. Eliminate the no parking regulations on the odd side of Warren Street from Yeaman Street to South Cambridge Street, except during snow emergencies. Proponents, people who are in favor of this proposal this evening. Proponents, people from Warren Street that are in favor of this proposal to make Warren Street a one-way north from Yeaman Street to South Cambridge Street, and eliminate the no parking regulation on the odd side of the street. So what we'll be doing is turning this into two-sided parking on Warren Street, except in the event of a snowstorm where we revert back to no parking on the odd side of the street during snow emergencies. But that would be posted, obviously before next winter, so the signs would be up there to make the determination when you can park there and when you can't. So we just need to hear from proponents, people who are in favor of it. I know we've been up here a couple of different times. If nobody wishes to speak on this issue, if we could have just a raising of the hands to show that there is support for this proposal. Well, it looks like almost everybody in the place is in favor. I think so. Would you like to speak? Absolutely. Yep. You sure?
Hi, my name is Vincent Russo, and I live at 35 Warren Street. Now, there's a commercial vehicle ordinance, too,
Yes.
on parking on the street. Does it have to be a certain weight, or?
It's going to be July 1st. Chris, you know the particulars on this, don't you?
It's going to be anything with 4 wheels, 1 ton or more, 6 wheels or more. If it falls under 1 ton, has 4 wheels on it, you get a permit for it through City Hall. That's July 1st, there's a grace period of a month probably, put it in place. What are you looking at? What do you got?
I got a pickup truck,
What size?
Sierra 2500.
No.
You can get a permit for it after July 1st, the clerk's office.
Okay, thank you.
Any other? Until July. This has got nothing to do with, proponents. Any other proponents wishing to speak before the commission? Seeing here. Name and record for the address, please.
Hi, my name's Julie Santo. I live at 67 Warren Street. The only thing I'm really concerned with is actually the direction of the one-way. I personally think the one-way should be going down, only because people coming from the square or school, when school's in session, they fly up the street, especially from the neighbors and myself who have kids. I think it should be going, the one-way should be going down rather than north. That's all.
So you're an opponent. So
Yes,
You
yes.
get to speak next. Okay. All right. Any other proponents? Name and address for the record, please.
Paul Tranfaglia, 42 Warren. I've been involved with Warren Street for 50 years. My family's been involved for 75. There was problems before they took the parking away. You had trouble coming home to park in front of your house. Now, when you go out, you're scared to go out. Because when you come home, never mind parking in front of your house, you're lucky to park on the street. And you walk into the Yeeman and people parking on Park Ave. And I can't live like that living there. I lived in Linfield, like some people do. And I know there's a lot more cars. I used to park my truck in Mom's house for lunch. There was no problem. But something's got to be done here because I know 3 or 4 people are thinking of selling to get the hell out of there. You were scared to go out. That's it, sir.
Thank you for your comments, Paul. Any other proponents? Seeing, hearing none, I'm going to close that side of the hearing and open it up to opponents. You've already made your comments. We have one young lady in the audience that is opposed not to the two-sided parking, but to the direction of the flow of the one-way street. Is that correct? Yeah, okay. Any other opponents? Seeing, hearing none, I'm going to close that side of the hearing and open it up to members of the commission. Members.
The only problem I see, Mr. Chairman, with reversing it to, from South Cambridge to Yeaman Street, it's really difficult to negotiate South Cambridge Street coming up to get to Warren Street. It's a very steep street. That's the only issue. I think most residents would be concerned with during the winter times coming up South Cambridge. Otherwise, I have no reason to go either way with it.
I'd go 60-day trial period as it proposed to us, and we could readdress it again in 60 days if they want to change direction with that. Trial basis 60 days, as it sits.
I have a motion for 60-day trial basis. All those in favor? Ayes, the ayes have it. So, we will be trying that for 60 days. I just want people to know that, at some point, we'll probably be addressing the issue on Union Street as well. If you see how Warren Street actually comes down the hill, it was actually designed to come down the hill to go to Broadway, but because of the old Hill School, the old McKinley School, and the New Hill School, is the fact that there was so much traffic and transit, that it may be wise at some point, we're looking at it to come the other way and come onto Yeaman to Broadway, or even, for that matter, make Yeaman a two-way street. That's being entertained as well, because obviously public safety vehicles make a lot of calls up in that area, and we have to make it as easy as possible for our professionals to do their job. So we will put this up for a 60-day trial period, see how it works out, and I'll be expecting conversation with both the chief of the fire department and the chief of the police department to see how it works. Obviously, with us, with the snow removal, it will be that street absolutely will have to be a snow emergency artery, at least up to Cambridge Street from Yeaman Street. The upper portion of Warren Street seems to be a little bit wider, so I think we may be able to, lessen the burden on other people for a snow emergency, so to speak, west of South Cambridge Street, but the lower end, I have difficulty doing it now with one-sided parking. So this will definitely probably be even a plus for us, because prior to this, they allowed people to park just with two wheels on that side of the street, and it made plowing almost impossible. But now that we'll make this an emergency artery, it'll probably make it better for all. And once we get to that curb, we're actually providing parking for the residents that live there, because we will be able to get right to the curb, and it'll make it easier for us and for members of our public safety community. So yes, we can't hear you. Speak into the microphone, please.
Question: when you do the emergency snow ban, no
Yeah.
parking on the odd side of the street,
Yeah.
how long is that enforced for?
It's usually for the same that you would see on Broadway. We have social media out there. We have the blue lights that are out there. It's generally anywhere from 4 to 12 hours after the completion of a storm. It's not for 2-3 days, or like they have in some communities, it goes on for months. It would be within 24 hours tops.
Okay.
Okay? Yeah. Yeah, and the other thing, I figure about the middle of July, a lot of signage work has to be done up there, and our sign man who does all that work is on vacation. He will not be back for a while. So in order for us to accomplish this, it's going to probably take till at least mid-July to get this accomplished. So we will try. It's going to be on a trial basis for 60 days, and at that time, we're looking probably at the September or the October meeting of the Traffic Commission to make it permanent, if in fact it's going to work out. That's it. You're all free to go. All right. No. No, it's going to take about at least 2 weeks. Yeah, at least 2 weeks. We got to pull the signage down, we got to put other signage up. So I would say sometime in the middle of July. Okay?
Thank you very much.
Okay. Moving back to the regular order of business on the public hearings, this is to amend Schedule 11 of Title 10 handicap parking areas by inserting the following locations: 122 Crystal Avenue, 49 Victoria Street. Officer Giannino, have you had an opportunity to visit these two locations, and what is your recommendation?
I'd like to table 49 Victoria Street. There were some questions as to the driveway, the cars over there, and the person can't come to speak on it.
What's that?
The person that lives there wanted to speak on the issues of it. So at the table, 49 Victoria, 122 Crystal, there's no parking there, they approve it. They got it.
They have the parking?
They need it.
Okay.
They need it.
They need it, and you want it approved or disapproved?
Approved.
Okay. Okay. Item number 1 is 122 Crystal Avenue, so I will make a motion that the handicap parking sign is approved to 122 Crystal Ave. All those in favor? Ayes, the ayes have it. I also make a motion that regarding 49 Victoria Street, that we table this issue until the residents have a chance to come and speak before the commission. Item number 2, in accordance with the provisions of Section 3A of Chapter 185 of the Acts of 1983, the traffic and parking rules and regulations of the City of Revere amend the following. Remove, the location is Furlong Way, directions both entire length. And location Furlong Drive, the direction is north from Lee Burbank Highway to Thomas Ello Drive, no parking anytime. Location Furlong Drive, south 20 feet easterly of the FedEx Thomas Ello Drive driveway, no parking anytime. And Furlong Drive south, 30 feet of westerly FedEx X driveway, 20 feet of Sunoco driveway, 1 hour parking. Officer Giannino.
I'd like to table this motion right now until I can get down there, possibly the fire chief or one of his deputies, do some
I need
measurements.
to go where you do. I have some issues with the plowing, because we have storage issues in that
We've
location
had a
as
lot of
well.
accidents down there in the past, and since they put the signs back up again, the accidents have not happened,
Right.
and a lot of trailer truck accidents down there, so I'd like to measure it out and possibly try to find maybe 1 or 2 spaces for the parking there that we could probably squeeze in, but I'd like to table it as it sits right now.
Okay. I make a motion this time to table this on the recommendation of Officer Giannino. Do I have a second? All those in favor? Aye. The ayes have it. Item number 3 is a request to amend Schedule 9 of Title 10 resident sticker parking area by adding the location. This is Bennington Street, both directions, the entire length. Officer Giannino.
I spoke with the ward councilor around Bennington Street. It's piecemeal as far as resident permit parking. There's 2 train stations, one in Beachmont Square, Suffolk Downs. Several apartment buildings have been built since the original no parking, the permit parking has been placed there. So just trying to clean up, just make it no parking from the square, or resident permit parking from the square down to the Boston line. Because once you go to Boston line, Boston has permit parking too.
I make a motion this time to approve. Do I have a second? All those in favor? Ayes. The ayes have it. Number 4, we've taken care of. Number 5, we've taken care of. Number 6, we've taken care of. Number 7, we've taken care of. Number 8 is to amend Schedule 4 of Title 10, isolated stop signs of the city ordinance by adding a 4-way stop sign at Grover Street and Augustus Street. Officer Giannino.
This came through from Councilor Patch. Since they opened the gas station down on Squire Road, they moved the gas station from Caney Street over to the Robinson Gurney Street.
Right.
Augusta Street is picking up all the traffic. There's been, I don't know how many accidents at that intersection over there. And I have probably half a dozen videos of cars just blowing through stops at 25, 30 miles an hour, whatever stopping there.
Okay.
So I think it's a good idea.
Okay. At this time, I make a motion on behalf of Council Patch to add this into the city ordinance. Do I have a second? Second. All those in favor? Ayes. The ayes have it. Okay, under request, this is item number 1, and this is at the request of Mayor Arrigo, who requests the Traffic Commission to amend Title 10, Schedule 9, resident sticker parking areas as follow. Location, Atlantic Avenue, the entire length, all day. Bennington Street, the entire length, all day. Bradstreet Avenue, the entire length, all day. Sale Street, the entire length, all day. Dolphin Avenue, the entire length, all day. George Avenue, the entire length, all day. Henry Street, the entire length, all day. Jones Road, the entire length, all day. Unity Avenue, the entire length, all day. And Wave Avenue, the entire length, all day. Officer Giannino.
We did Bennington Street, so remove that one and we'll send the rest to public hearing.
Okay, at this time, I make a motion that we order this to a public hearing so the residents can have their say on these schedule changes. I have a second? I know. Well, that's the idea of the public hearing, Council. Okay. Okay, so at this time, we'll order this to a public hearing. Item number 2 is Council Novoselsky request to amend Title 10, Schedule 9, resident parking sticker areas as follow. On Waverly Avenue, westerly, that's from the corner of Centennial Ave to North Shore Road, and he has a time restriction on this, and it would be from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. And on Walden Street, westerly, Shirley Avenue to Beach Street for the same allotted time, 9 a.m. to 5 p.m.
Public hearing.
At this time, we'll order this to a public hearing. All those in favor? Aye, the ayes have it to a public hearing. We have late communications, and the issue is Sagamore Street, resident sticker parking. At this time, we would, I make a motion that we move this to a public hearing. Do I have a second? All those in favor? All opposed? So be it. Order to a public hearing. And the next item is to amend Schedule 11, of Title 10, handicap parking, persons parking areas by inserting the following locations: 48 Java Street, 97 Sagamore Street, 51 Constitution Ave, and 770 Winthrop Avenue. Officer Giannino.
Public hearing on all of them.
At this time, I make a motion to order this to a public hearing. All those in favor? Aye, the ayes have it. This will be ordered to a public hearing. Any other issues you have before us this evening, Councilor? At this time, do I have a motion to adjourn? Yes. Motion to adjourn. I second that. All in favor? All opposed? Adjourn. Thank you, gentlemen.